Hi, and welcome to the Nature and Wildlife Discovery Center. I'm Diana Miller, Raptor Center Director for the organization, and with me today is a very handsome member of our education team. This is Izzy, and Izzy is an adult male turkey vulture. And Izzy has been with our center now for, gosh, a long time, 8 years. He is a non-releasable bird, which means he's suffered an injury that's left him with a physical impairment or handicap, as we like to say, that doesn't allow him to return to the wild. So Izzy came to our Raptor Center, like I mentioned, 8 years ago in the month of November, which is really an unusual time for us to see a turkey vulture since they are a migratory bird, and usually by the end of November these guys are down into Mexico, Central America, and South America, and they're not really hanging out in Colorado. But Izzy was found near West Cliff, Colorado, next to some people's dumpster after a snowstorm in late November. They were driving down their driveway, and when they got to the gate to open up, and their dumpster's by their gate, they noticed an unusual mound in the snow next to the dumpster, and investigated and actually found that buried under the snow was this beautiful little turkey vulture. And they, very cold, of course, very lethargic, not moving very much. So they bundled him up in a blanket and gave our center a call and asked if they could bring him on down. And we said, absolutely, bring the little guy down. And I said, just keep him in the towel, keep him at room temperature, don't try to heat him up too fast, but get him here as soon as you can. So it's about an hour drive from that area. So they got Izzy down to us, and when he came in, we examined, and we found that Izzy had frostbite on his, I always want to call Izzy a girl, but he's definitely a boy. On Izzy's left wing, we found that he had suffered a fracture at some point in his young life. And when Izzy came in, Izzy was actually an immature or a young bird, first-year bird, would have been hatched out, and that past spring and summer, and was on his first migration when this happened. But at some point, he suffered a fracture to the bones in the hand and the wrist part of the wing. So that outer edge of the wing is where he had damage. And because of the damage from the fracture, one, Izzy couldn't fly very well, and two, blood supply had been compromised. So that meant there wasn't a good blood flow through that area of the wing. And because the wing had bad blood flow in the super cold of that snowstorm, that portion of Izzy's wing actually froze. So when he came into us, that wing tip was still fairly frozen. It was starting to thaw out because of his body heat and being wrapped in a towel, but parts of it were still frozen. So we had to very carefully and slowly apply proper measures to try to get the wing to thaw out very slowly. We were doing some massage, try to encourage circulation, but unfortunately the damage from the frostbite was done, and that part of his wing was going to die. So our veterinarian took a look at it, and he at the time said, well, I could try to do an amputation, and because that part of the wing is going to die, we could remove it, or we could just let nature take its course. Let it die, let his body seal off that dead tissue, and just see what happens and watch for infection and that type of thing. So we went with the least invasive method, which was to just let the wing do what it's going to do. So we carefully watched, kept Izzy nice and warm in an indoor enclosure while this was occurring, and slowly, over the next few days, that area did indeed start to die off. There we go. And and we just watched it, and eventually it just started to dry up where all that tissue was dead. And one morning we came in, and here was the dead portion of Izzy's wing laying on the floor of the enclosure, and Izzy was perfectly fine. No blood, no mess, anything. The body had just totally sealed off that dead region, and he'd had a natural amputation. And because, of course, he had that amputation, we knew Izzy can't go back to the wild. So we took this young turkey vulture, got permission from Fish and Wildlife and Colorado Parks and Wildlife for him to remain with us, and turned him into an educational bird, which he's been doing for us for a very, very long time. So you'll notice when he does open his wings, let me see if I can get him, let me step out a little bit and see if I can get Izzy to open up those beautiful wings for you. Can you open up? You can see on that left side that he is indeed missing the tip of his wing. And for some reason today, the camera does, there we go. The phone just keeps moving. A little bit of a breeze, I think. Anyhow, so Izzy, being a turkey vulture, of course, is a very common raptor in North America. They are a little different. Vultures are a little different than most birds of prey because at least the New World vultures, they can't kill anything. It's not really, they're designed to kill prey. Now, there are some species of vultures, like the black vulture, that have been known to take young animals and be able to kill them. But they don't have the same techniques for looking for food or actually killing food that other birds of prey have. Turkey vultures totally rely on dead resources or carrion. They're carrion eaters, and they'll eat pretty much any animal out there that's deceased, and some of them actually do eat a little bit of dead plant material. I've been told by some folks that vultures like to eat pumpkin and tomatoes. We've tried that with our vultures. They say, "Are you crazy?" But the only food we've actually introduced to them that was plant-based was watermelon, and they seem to enjoy that. So they do occasionally get a little bit of watermelon on the side in addition to their carrion. So if you're going to be a vulture and you have to find dead things, you obviously, just like any other hunting animal, you got to have some tools to help you do that. In that case, just like with all birds of prey, vultures have a very large set of eyeballs. And those eyes are engineered for long distance vision to help them search out prey as they're soaring about. And that's actually how they do their looking, is they do it from the sky. Vultures, those huge wings of theirs, let me see if I get Izzy to open up one more time. There you go, Iz. Just a beautiful set of wings. He's a little nervous today. We've been doing some work on our enclosures during this time when we've been closed to the public. So right now, Lurch and Izzy, our resident turkey vultures, are in an enclosure that's unfamiliar to them. So that's actually made them a little uncomfortable, but their cage is getting a new roof. So we want them, of course, not in there while we're working. So hopefully in another week, week or so, we'll have that roof and their cage enclosure sealed. It'll be great for them when they'll move back and they'll calm down. So if Izzy looks a little uncomfortable today, she definitely is. So anyway, I have phone calls coming in as I'm trying to talk. This is pretty funny. So anyhow, he will spend the day on the wing, soaring, and vultures have those big, wide wings, huge rounded edges of those wings to help them travel through the sky for long hours on air currents, especially warm air currents called thermals. Warm air, of course, rises. As the air gets hotter, it goes up, and eventually, of course, it cools and it starts to come back down again. But they will ride those thermals for as long as they can, and they can cover some extensive distance just doing the soaring all day long. Turkey vultures can cover 100 or more miles in a day searching for food. So as Izzy's flying around up there, he would be searching around looking for signs of something dead, maybe activity of other scavengers, seeing crows, ravens, magpies, that type of thing. But more commonly what he's doing is, as he's flying around, he's scanning the air for scent. Turkey vultures have a very highly developed sense of smell. So I'm going to move in a little closer so you can just see his handsome face. I know he's a little nervous about the phone. This is kind of a new thing for Iz, but you'll notice that he has this really awesome beak. He has a big white beak. It's hooked just like all birds of prey do, but you'll notice that he has huge nasal openings to let in lots of air. And it's actually see-through, because if I can get him, there we go. Oh, you can see right through it. And that's just to allow a lot of air to flow slowly through his nasal openings so that he can pick up scent of something dead. And what he's finely tuned to pick up the scent of is a gas called ethyl mercaptan. When a animal starts to decompose, the body, of course, starts to break down, and it gives off a gas, a very smelly gas, and that's ethyl mercaptan, and that's the smell of death. And actually, most of us have smelled that, either with finding something dead in our garage, or if you have natural gas or propane, it has that. If you have a leak or something, or when you turn on the gas stove, there's that little faint smell of kind of like rotten eggs or something nasty. that's ethyl mercaptan that you're smelling, that we actually put into the gas to tell us that there's a problem. But he looks for that scent. That is a smell that's very important to him to be able to find his prey. So he's flying about 200, 300, 400 feet in the sky, and of course those smells are being brought along with those thermals. So it's a great place to sniff things out. He can be up in the air and he'll pick up those faint little scents of ethyl mercaptan, and then he will follow that scent and as it gets stronger and stronger and leads him back to the carcass. So it's a wonderful tool for him. Turkey vultures are the only New World vultures that I'm aware of that can do this. So they have a very highly developed sense of smell. And other vultures and condors actually rely on the turkey vulture to help them find food. They did research on turkey vultures and Andean condors in South America, and they were always curious how the big Andean condors were finding dead things below the canopy of the rainforest, because they couldn't see something dead down there, and they don't have a good sense of smell, so they couldn't smell things. But what they did with their research is they found out that those big other vultures and condors relied on the turkey vulture to lead them. So they would watch or soar along with turkey vultures, and when the turkey vultures picked up the scent, the bigger and other vultures and condors would follow along. So they actually are a really important cue for other family. Also, other scavengers like crows, ravens, magpies, birds of prey, other birds of prey, they all watch turkey vulture behavior, because often the turkey vulture will lead them to a source of food. So off they go. Now, when you get there, you don't really want to share with your family. Vultures are social animals, but when they do go searching for food, they go by themselves. In the morning, they would all be waking up in a common roost, usually a tree, maybe an old cottonwood, pine tree, something near where maybe 50 to 100 of them could sit. And in the morning, of course, they would be grooming or preening their feathers until they maybe sitting out in the sun, holding open those wings, that heraldic pose, they call it, when they're sunning themselves with their wings open. All of that to actually heat up, warm up their bodies, and also help to disinfect with the UV radiation. So there's some awesome tools going on with the sun for these guys. But anyway, you all head off in different directions to search for prey. And of course, you keep your eye on one another, because if somebody finds food, yeah, you're going to tag along so that you can eat too, and that's their success. So Lurch arrives, and maybe it's a deer that someone hit on the highway, and so that's a huge meal for him, and down he would go. Now, he might have a problem with a big animal like a deer. It's sometimes hard to tear through that hide. Even though he does have a hooked beak for tearing, sometimes large animals, it's very difficult for the vultures to get into it. So often they may wait, hang out in the trees nearby for a larger scavenger, maybe a coyote, a fox, a lion, a bear, someone to come along and open up that carcass for them. And then once that animal leaves, of course, they all come down and feed. Generally, they like to eat the insides first. That's how they spend their lives. Organs, if you think about it, are really rich in nutrition, like livers and hearts and kidneys. There's a lot of nutrition there, and that's what the vultures tend to go for first. I know Lurch and Izzy, when we feed them, of course, dead rats. That's their favorite. They also like rabbit or any other critter we can find for them. But if we do feed them a whole rat, we always open it for them. And the first thing that they both go for when they get their rats is the liver. They always eat the liver first. In fact, they actually fight over it. They'll chase each other away so that one of them can get both livers. So sometimes you have to stand there and make sure that they're both eating their own rat so that they can each have an equal amount of liver. So it is interesting living with or hanging out with a couple of turkey vultures. But imagine, if you will, that you are eating dead things and you're liking the insides. Well, imagine if you were to stick your head in a dead carcass all the time to pull out your favorite food with your beak or your teeth in the case of us. Well, you could just imagine what your hair would be like. It would be disgusting. It would be covered in debris from that carcass, and it'd be very difficult to keep it clean. So one adaptation or specialized tool that vultures often have is they have very small to no feathers on the head. And that's just an adaptation for cleanliness. It's much easier for them to keep it clean. All they have to do if they have some debris is sit out in the sun and shake it off when it's dry, or take their claw maybe and scratch it off. So it's a really great way for them to stay clean and healthy. And of course, once you've eaten your fill, off you go to clean yourself. So you sit in the sun, you groom your feathers, and enjoy the UV radiation to help you disinfect. Because if you think about it, he's been walking around a dead carcass. Lots of lovely microorganisms are there, bacteria, viruses, who knows what that carcass is carrying. So you want to use that solar radiation to help clean your feathers, help disinfect you. Because it's hard sometimes to find water when you're a vulture, these guys sometimes are in remote areas where water isn't readily available to them. So they have to look at creative ways of keeping themselves cool. And in their case, what they do is, it's kind of disgusting. I love vultures, but these guys are disgusting animals. They do help to disinfect and clean their feet by actually defecating on their legs. So when it's really hot outside and they need to cool themselves, they will defecate on the legs because there's water in their feces, and that water evaporating off the skin will actually help to cool you. Just like if we spritz water on our face when we're hot, that evaporative cooling helps us to reduce our heat. The same thing is true for the vultures. In birds, their feet are really important. Birds' feet are like little radiators. They lose a lot of heat on hot summer days through their feet. So even in the other raptors, when they get hot, we'll often see them standing in their cool pools of water to cool themselves off. Or in our case, we also have aerial misters in our caging. So a lot of times you'll see the birds just sitting under the misters going, oh, this feels great. But they do use water to cool themselves. So they are clever, just like us. Also, there's acids in the feces material, and those acids kill the microbes. So they have lots of ways of keeping themselves healthy, even though they may be eating really nasty material. Also, when they do eat, there's a lot of things inside their body to help them destroy microbes. One is they're hot, not just hot looking, but they're also hot in body temperature. So naturally, Izzy, he is anywhere from 102 to 104 degrees naturally. So for us, we're 98.6. If we want to kill microbes, we run a fever of 104 to 106 to destroy bacteria and viruses. These guys do it naturally, and that's wonderful for the environment, because say they come across a rabbit. I know there's a nasty bacterial infection in rabbits called tularemia, that if pets or us, if we get that bacteria in our bodies, can make us very ill or even kill us. So if a rabbit dies from tularemia, the vultures find it first. They consume that, and boom, the disease is stopped right there, because he destroyed that bacteria and prevent it from spreading through other populations. So they are so important for helping stop the spread of disease and cleaning up the planet. That's their job. So they have all this stuff going on. So they eat, they disinfect. If it's something big like a deer, once their belly has a little space in it after they've digested, they'll go back and eat some more. They may spend several days finishing off a carcass because they never know when they're going to eat again, and you've got to eat as much as you can. And in fact, I have seen birds of prey, including vultures and hawks, consume so much food because that they actually weighed too much to get off the ground. So a lot of times when you see vultures that are well fed, they're just sort of standing around, just resting and hanging out in the sun and cooling themselves and disinfecting and digesting so that they can go get some more. I like to think about vultures on a deer carcass as us at Thanksgiving dinner. We eat and huge meal, and then we go flop on the couch, watch football for a while, and then we suddenly notice, hey, there's a little room in the stomach, let's go get pie, right? Yep, eat your pie, and then you flop back on the couch, digest some more, and then later in the evening you're like, there's some space. I know there's some really good leftovers. So we do the same thing that they do. However, if they are in that stage where they're grooming and a predator or something like that threatens them, they do is they'll try to make themselves very big. They'll puff up, they'll lift out their wings to make themselves look large. They hiss. Vultures can't scream or make all the big noises that the other hawks and eagles and falcons make. Vultures only hiss and grunt. So if you see a movie and the vultures are screaming, shame on the movie makers, because vultures don't make those sounds. But anyhow, they hiss and they grunt and they stamp their feet, try to look intimidating. But of course, to a predator like a coyote or a fox or something, it's not going to believe them. It's smarter. It knows the vulture's really no threat. So he'll try to make maybe an attempt on the vulture's lives, especially if they have cleaned the carcass, picked it clean, and there's nothing for him. So the vultures have an interesting strategy just think about this. They have just consumed a belly full of rotten meat, and now it's partially digested. So you're going to use that as your defense mechanism. Yes, if they're threatened, they will projectile vomit. And I got to tell you, it's effective. I cannot express to you how many shoes I have thrown away after a vulture here at the center or out on a rescue has vomited on, because even though I try to clean them, that odor does not come out. It's there for life. So you just have to dispose of your shoes. But it's a very effective tool for them. In fact, I mean, if my food threw up at me, I wouldn't eat it either. So off goes the disgusted predator, and the vultures just resume life and get back to it. So sorry. Anyway, so Izzy and the other vultures, maybe they all threw up and ran off or flew off to safety when the coast was clear. They all returned. And here's another gross part about vultures. All of that food that they regurgitated, oh yeah, they eat it. Exactly. So they come back and they clean that all up, because hey, you never know when you're going to eat again, and you can't waste good food. And that even happens here at the center. For example, it didn't happen today, but I have come into the enclosure with the vultures to get maybe Izzy for a program, and she's not real happy with me. She doesn't want to go today, or something's upset her. Something spooks her, and she throws up while she's on my glove, hits the floor, and oh my gosh, it smells so bad. But I don't have to worry, because if I'm still in the enclosure, Lurch, our other vulture, comes running up and he eats what she just threw up, and you're so happy because he's just consumed the odor, and it's really great. So they do eat each other's vomit all the time. It's disgusting, but at the same time, it's pretty awesome what they do, and very helpful when you don't want to have to deal with the mess or the odor. So I just love turkey vultures. They are amazing creatures and so important to the world. We have many species worldwide of vultures and condors, and certainly in the U.S. they're doing okay, but in so many parts of the world, these guys are in trouble. Lots of species of vultures are declining rapidly due to a lot of things: human encroachment, urbanization, poisonings due to poachers, and just cultural beliefs and things. So they are a very important bird in the environment, and we need to learn so much more about them so that we can help them to survive and thrive, to help us keep the planet clean. We all talk about the coronavirus right now, and you know, certainly vultures might play a role in the future with helping us with that. Who knows? As we learn more and more about diseases and how they're spread, and when we eliminate an animal from the environment, we change the whole scheme of things, and sometimes diseases get unchecked because a certain animal was helping to keep that disease in check. So it's so important, and there's so much out there for us to learn more and more about these special predators. And even though they're not killing something live, they're still out there taking care of the planet, helping us to be healthy, and we owe them a lot. Well, Izzy's starting to get a little impatient and nervous on my glove, and I don't think I really want you to experience a vulture vomiting at this point. So we're going to wrap it up for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Now, a couple of things for next week. I'm not sure what day it is, so watch Facebook for our postings. We have a ferruginous hawk that we've been caring for that is very close to release, and we're hoping next Saturday or Sunday to be able to do that, take her home to where she came from, and do a Facebook Live with her release. So keep posted on that. And then the other day is Lurch, who is very lonely. He's such a social guy. He has been telling us that he would love to answer questions. So this week, your assignment as listeners is to send us either put it on our posts or send us a message with your questions about birds of prey, and Lurch will love to take your questions, and he'll be answering those for you either next Saturday or Sunday on Facebook Live. If you'd like to learn more about the Nature and Wildlife Discovery Center, you can certainly look us up on our Facebook page. Of course, you're there now, and learn more about us, or go to our website. hikeandlearn.org. So until next week, be safe, be well. Keep practicing your social distancing. It's making a real difference for all of us. Wear your mask when you're in public. I just got bit by a vulture. It hurts. And we hope in a few weeks that things will be safe enough that we can invite our visitors back. So until then, again, be safe, be well, and don't get bit by a vulture. It's a very painful experience. Have a great day. Thanks.